Hello, my name is Jeremy Schumack, and welcome to the PS Pod, episode 20. What we're going to be doing in this episode is taking this guy out of this family picture. So in order to do that, I'm going to be introducing absolutely no new tools and just using the same tools we've been using in nauseam to get rid of him. Alright, so basically the steps are we're going to be using the stamp tool to copy this region and paste it over here, and then we're going to be cutting these guys out of the picture and putting them on top of that region. So I'm going to just go to the stamp tool and increase its size, and making sure that I have a new layer. So I'm just going to go to new layer. Let me just delete what I had before. Let me just delete any layers that might confuse this. I'm going to keep this file as simple as possible. So we're just going to have the two layers. And I'm just using the stamp tool, just alt-clicking, just copying it over here. So I don't really want to get her, so I'm going to erase that part of this layer, which we can do because we did it on a separate layer. And you can see that we're still getting the edge of him right here, so I'm going to copy from this area over here. You can see that right now I'm getting the top edge. I don't want that. Going to decrease the size of the brush. And there we go. And so, is it perfect? No, but I mean, obviously there's the people right there, and those are going to need to be fixed. But as far as does the background look fairly seamless, if you're looking, you can tell that this is the same thing. So we're going to try and hide that by going back to the stamp tool and just kind of changing one of them ever so slightly. So it looks like a slightly different arrangement. Just going to decrease the size of it right there and kind of trace around the side, around this flower. There we go. And just kind of going in, tricking the eyes so you can't tell. Alright, and like, I'm trying to avoid these areas where you have just kind of this fadey look and get it so it's all very strong lines. Alright, so I'm looking at this right here, and I have to say, I wouldn't necessarily know. There's kind of a giveaway right here with these two flowers, so I'm just going to get rid of this bottom one, and there we go. That's pretty good. You wouldn't necessarily know. Alright, so step one, just creating this layer where you're copying from the background to get rid of it. And step two, what we're going to do is we're going to trace around this area over here. I'm going to go to the magnetic lasso tool, see what it does. I would use the quick selection tool, but I don't have much faith in it just because it's such a busy background. It's hard to tell where the background ends and the foreground begins. So selection is, without a doubt, the most important and most time-consuming part of Photoshop, and it's used for absolutely every task, as I hope I've made clear over the course of these tutorials. So I'm just selecting around, hoping that it gets a good selection, not zooming in too far for the first pass, and then zooming in quite a bit for the second pass to fix all the little bits that it didn't do right. So for all the little fixes, just going to go in with the polygonal lasso tool. And if at this point all this selecting just seems boring because it's obvious how you go about doing it, that's a good thing. That means that you've learned something and made me proud. So just going to select all this here. You notice that this old woman or man, I don't know, I hope whoever this is never sees this tutorial. It was just a random shot I did outside of, or inside of San Francisco. So this is just a random family. I hope that's alright to use their image. Don't sue me, people. I'm not making any money off of this. So I'm just going to just use the polygonal lasso tool to go around this. And the reason I need to do this by hand is you can tell that the background and foreground are very close in color to each other. So just looking for all this, looks like the magnetic lasso tool, while decent, definitely had some trouble areas. And then once I'm done doing that, oops, that was the wrong direction, so I'm just going to undo that and press Alt instead of pressing Shift. Happens to all of us. You'll notice that I'm doing these in very small segments at a time, because in case that happens, instead of having lost half an hour's work or whatever, I only lost, 15 seconds. I try not to do selections that take, each section more than, you know, a minute at max, at absolute max. All right, so that's not so important, that area down there, because that's not what's being pasted over. I'm going to press Refine Edges. And let's see. Let's feather the edge a little bit. Let's shift the edge inward a little bit. Let's zoom in. All right, so that's looking all right. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to press OK to that. This hair isn't so great, but we'll see if that works or not. I think it will. I'm just going to copy this, paste it, and so right now we have it like this. I'm going to bring this above, and so now these are sticking out right there. And you know what? I think this hair works fairly well. Also, the guy isn't right there, so if I wanted to erase part of this layer right here, I could get a little bit of the hair back. I'm not going to do that, though. You can see that's causing problems. The guy is still here a little bit, so I'm going to make sure that I'm on the right layer. So I'm on the layer that I was doing all the stamp tool correction on, and I'm going to go back to the stamp tool. So just S to head back to the stamp tool, and I'm going to fix that region down there, just with some plants that look very normal, that you wouldn't know weren't there. All right, so just using the stamp tool to stamp out part of this layer. Let's just use it from here. And just again, notice that I'm sampling from lots of different spots to keep things interesting. All right, so this area right here looks a little weird, although I'm not sure I'd pick up on it. No, it definitely looks weird. So I'm going to... Yeah, I think it looks weird just because we have this fade of the flower right there. So I'm going to make it so it's a little bit clearer with the edges. I'm going to create a new layer just in case there's any mistakes here, which is entirely possible. S for the stamp tool, and just give this a harder edge. And keep in mind exactly what layer I'm doing this on. I'm doing this on the layer in between where I was doing the other stamp tool actions and underneath this. And that looks, well, let's see, is that better or worse? Yeah, I'd say that's a little bit better. Although we are seeing the hard edge of the hair right there. I am not going to show you how to select out this hair. That is for a much more advanced tutorial. However, as far as doing a basic job of getting this guy out of the background, before, after, and I'd say you'd never know. All right. Just seeing any other places. Yeah, I can still see a little bit of his arm down there, so I'm just going to go in and I'm going to fix that. Just going to fix that. All right. And this edge is a little weird, so I'm just going to use the eraser tool, E for eraser, make sure that it has a nice and soft edge, and just kind of erase out all this area here. Again, I know you people who are aware of masks are like, no, there's a better way to do this. And yes, there is. However, there isn't a simpler way to do it. And again, this gets the job done, and it's the simplest way to do it. And it works. And that's really what matters. So, still looks a little copy and paste. You can kind of tell that there's two things right there. It's pretty obvious that I just used the stamp tool. So I'm going to go into this flowers, again, on a new layer just in case I make any mistakes, and just continue adjusting them until you can no longer really tell that it's so copied and pasted. So I'm just going to do this here. And there are telltale signs, like whenever there's a repeat texture in the background, you can tell that someone was using the stamp tool. So I'm going to say that that's good enough. I'm going to delete the last few actions by going into the history palette. And just kind of go back to here. All right. Let me go into the history palette one more time. All right, and say that this is pretty good. All right, so the guy is gone. In the next tutorial, I am going to add a different person into the background. All right, until then, thanks for joining.